inside the off stump. Oh, he's caught it! I don't believe it! Tom Kohler-Cadmore has caught the most magnificent catch. At short third man, it's the end of Daniel Sams, and Somerset have won the Vitality Blast 2023. They've bowled Essex out for 131.
Hello there, you're listening to Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. This is the Somerset Cricket Podcast. My name's Ian Shepherd, and joining me this evening, I got lifelong Somerset fan Steve Tancock, and the official custodian of the maidens bowled by male players, male Somerset players. I need to find out a way of saying this in a succinct manner, Dan. That thing he puts on Twitter every time somebody bowls 6 balls without a run being scored, Dan Kingdom. And Dan, there wasn't a cat and hell's chance of one of those being bowled on Friday night, was there?
No, there wasn't. It was a shame, really, to end the last group stage campaign in that way, really, because I think if that match had preceded those 3 wins we had against Surrey, Hampshire and Sussex, I think we'd all be a lot more positive going into the quarterfinals. But the fact that we got ourselves into that position of having a home quarterfinal in our hands, just had to beat Glamorgan at Cardiff, a place where we have a great record against a team
which
that
we do for fun.
12 in a row.
We do it for fun, don't we?
Yeah, usually. But this time it was just one of those matches where everything goes wrong. It can happen in T20 cricket. Sometimes, I mean, on the same night, Surrey got thrashed by Kent. So good teams can get thrashed in T20 cricket. It's the way it is. But we did play badly. Like, I mean, it was obviously a fairly flat wicket, but we just weren't. I mean, I don't want to say we weren't up for it, but I think there was maybe an element of sort of thinking, oh, the job's already been done because we're through. But yeah, we overall just was a bad night. Clearly, if we kept them to maybe 200, I would have backed our batters to chase it. But 240 is just such an insane total to try and chase that they had no chance. There's no blame on the batters particularly. I think it's just with the ball, none of them were on song really. And it is, in a way, it is a bit worrying because I think throughout the tournament, the bowling has just not been at the same level as that last year. And while we were insane last year, obviously with the ball, so we were always going to find it difficult to match that. But we have been a little bit worse than I expected. I think a few of the guys have clearly not performed as well as they could have. I'd say that's probably, it goes for batters as well. But I think if anything, I think the bowling is probably where we've been slightly. That's part. I think the bowling is the bigger reason why we haven't been as good in the Blast this year, I'd say.
So I've been looking at. I've got the stats up, which we'll have a look at in a minute for the group stages. Steve, it kind of feels to me that batting is more or less at the same level, but the bowling is kind of lacking a little bit. Let's have a look at those said averages. I'm not going to try and do a screen share because it might just cock things up a little bit. Dan, off the top of your head, can you remember what Ben Green's economy rate was roughly last year?
Right in front of me, it was 9.23.
Okay, so Green is the leading wicket taker this year with 21, but he's now going at 10.6 per over.
Yeah.
Everyone else bar Roloff is in single figures, apart from Sonny Baker's odd appearance against Kent. So, I guess if you added that Matt Henry factor into that as well, yeah, that probably going to be up to more or less the same level.
So you basically swapped Jake Ball for Matt Henry, haven't you? And if you look pretty much like for like,
yeah, potentially.
Ben Green probably other sides have worked him out a little bit. There wasn't as much of the surprise factor.
He took a lot of wickets in clusters. I mean, he got 4 against Sussex on the Thursday night as well. Don't forget. That was relatively.
When I was listening to the two of you at the start there, I was thinking, if you just clipped that bit of audio and played it to 1,000 cricket fans without knowing it was talking about Somerset, 999 would have gone, they're talking about Somerset, because it was the most Somerset thing to do, to have that great night on Thursday. As Dan said, 3 good wins against 3 of the better sides in the group. And then, now if you look at it, we've lost to Glamorgan and Gloucestershire twice, haven't we, in the group? Which, as Dan exactly right, and we said it before we started recording, it can happen in T20 cricket. But then maybe once it happens, but that's 3 times against sides that we normally beat that we didn't perform. So positive, we've got the bad game out the way before the knockout. Positive is a long gap now between the end of the group stage and the knockout. But I think, Dan, you're right. We're putting too much pressure too many times on the batters at the moment.
I think it's also Craig Overton as well has not been at the same level as last year. He was incredible last year in the power play. He kept it. His economy rate was 7.35. He took 18 wickets, a wicket every 17 balls. This year he's taking a wicket every 24 balls, and he's going at 8.34. So it's an extra run and over. So again, it just felt like he's not been at that same level. There's not been overall from the whole team. There hasn't been that reliability of taking power play wickets this year. And I feel like that's been a real strength of ours in the last couple of years. The early wickets up top, but it's just not been the same this year. For whatever reason.
Do you think that is very much the Matt Henry factor, though?
Yeah. I might slightly disagree with that. I mean, we took 3 in the power play at Canterbury, didn't we?
Yep, we did.
And then it was after that we obviously let it go with Denley and Billings putting on that brilliant partnership to see them home. I think, if memory serves, we took wickets in the power play against the Gloucesters.
There were 2 or 3 games just vaguely that we did take wickets early, and then 4th, 5th wicket partnerships did for us, didn't they?
There was some, but I just think there were also a few I can think of where we didn't take those early wickets. For example, even the first game against Essex at Taunton, we didn't really take early wickets. Similar Hampshire at the Rose Bowl, we still won the game, but again, we didn't take those early wickets. There are definitely a few examples, I think. I mean, yeah, clearly there were times we did take early wickets, but it's just been relative to the last couple of years, we've not been as good. And I don't think it's just Matt Henry. In 2022, we were pretty good at taking early wickets as well. That was partly Josh Davey, who's obviously not really featuring for us as much in T20 cricket anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bowling at various stages hasn't been as... Last season, it was kind of intense pressure from both ends, from overs 1 to 20. This year, there have been little spells where sides have just been able to get away against us. Unfortunately, Friday night, that spell was from over 1 to over 20.
Yeah.
The thing is, I mean, for our sins, me and Dan were there watching it, and there were a couple of times where I think Jack's first over might have only gone for a few singles. Yeah. Jake Ball's first over, I think only went for a few singles as well. So that were kind of like little green shoots. That we were just the little green grass of home shoots that we were just gonna pull it back, and then no, Carlson just went on his merry way again, and it was.
It's got worse and worse.
Yeah, I mean, normally in a game there is something that you can pull out, like somebody will take a brilliant catch, somebody will get a good 50, somebody will take a couple of wickets and, not go for very many amongst a pretty horrendous looking bowling card, but nothing, literally nothing. I mean, I was racking my brains, and the highlight for me was my highlight of that night was when Tom Abel steered 1 inch perfect between third man and point, and it went for 4. That's it. That was my highlight of Thursday night.
This is probably an impossible question to answer objectively, but was that the worst T20 performance in the history of Somerset?
I didn't think of a worse one.
Well, in 2010, we in a similar situation, we were already through, and it was the last game of the group stage. We were playing Kent at Taunton, and we weren't chasing that many, and we just collapsed to about 80 all out. So that may not be worse, but that was also pretty dismal. And in a similar situation where we were already through, and obviously the job was felt to be done.
I was thinking pretty much the whole way through that game, Somerset are going to be playing at Old Trafford. And then Northants did the job on them, didn't they? And, I have to say, I think we'd all much rather be going to Northants than going to Old Trafford. I imagine Northants fans probably went, oh, bugger, when they saw how the group played out. But, and the other thing was, I don't know if you guys were keeping an eye on it, but there was never a chance that Sussex weren't going to win that game on Friday.
Oh.
That was 3-0 with 5 minutes gone, wasn't it? Almost. It was, just. So.
Although if we would have won it, we would have been home to Lancashire.
Mm.
I'd rather be at home. I'd rather be at home to anybody than
absolutely.
away, definitely. Remember, we've never lost a home blast quarterfinal. Although the other way of looking at it at that is that we are due to lose one. We've won 6. We've won all 6 of our home blast quarterfinals. So we probably are due a loss in one at some point.
And of course, the bean counters will be ruining the £250,000 hole in the budget that not having that home quarterfinal brings. But
you can't build your budget on things like that.
Well,
Ian,
I was I think I was. What I was so pissed off about it.
Really, nobody could have told.
Well, I'll tell you what I did consider doing. Ben Warren got the train. He's not changed his name, by the way. I just said Ben and then Ben Warren to clarify who I was talking about. He got the train up because to Cardiff, and I drove, so I said I'd give him a lift back. And I've got a dash cam which records the sound as well, so I have thought about not bothering with a podcast this week and then just ripping the audio of me and Ben chatting about it on the way home and sticking that up online just to save reliving it. But no.
The only consolation was, as I said to you, I was dipping in and out for various reasons, and Anthony's chunterometer was getting more and more into the red as it went on. I mean, he was just, bless him. He probably, because he'd said last week on the pod he wasn't looking forward to the journeys. He made some comment about I have to leave at lunchtime to get there.
It was awful. Yeah, I left about 1:15. It was the earliest I could get away from work. I didn't get there till 5 o'clock. It was absolute nightmare. So that was just the icing on the cake,
had a lovely cozy ride on the train down, I presume.
Yeah, I took the train. I just think the rule is, I mean, not that I don't drive anyway, but the rule is never drive north from the southwest on a Friday afternoon in the summer, surely. It's always a nightmare.
There is that, but again, when the train is like 40 quid or 50 quid and your petrol costs you, we're getting onto a different topic now. Should we be like a transport politics podcast for the next 5 minutes?
Yeah, we should.
When getting the train should always be cheaper than the amount of petrol or the cost of the amount of petrol it would take you to do that journey.
Yep.
And it's not.
100%.
So what's the point of the train?
Yeah.
I'll quickly sum that up in about 20 seconds. That was fantastic. Well, let's talk about
but of
Sussex.
course, before
Steve,
we say that, it just proves the stupidity yet again of expecting Somerset supporters to go to Cardiff at the moment to support a certain competition. It's just brainless.
Oh yeah, well, I think they're playing tonight, aren't they? So I'm just going to quickly look at the score now and see a full complement of Somerset players playing. I'm really glad Sonny Baker's gone to the Manchester Original because I'm sure he's going to be playing. Promising young fast bowler like that, exciting. We'll really get there. Oh, he's not playing. Oh dear. Oh well. And I presume who's playing for the Welsh Firemen? TKC and Abel are our only 2 representatives.
And Jake Ball as well. Jake Ball.
Oh, Jake Ball. Oh, I forget. Yeah, we've got 5 as well. But do we count? I suppose we sort of legally have to count Jake Ball as one of our own, don't we?
I'm just saying about current Somerset players because Van der Merwe, Green, and Baker are all missing out tonight. So that means that if they miss one more game, theoretically they could come back and play for us in the One Day Cup. Although who knows if that happens? As we saw with Lammerby last year, there were 3 chances where he could have played for us but didn't. They may well have had good reasons. At least one of them did have a good reason, but who knows? I mean, we didn't get that benefit last year. Other counties did. A few counties did end up having a few players come back to them from the 100. So hopefully we do get that this year, but who knows?
I am going to say right now, Dan, that my fingers are not crossed. Now that doesn't make sense. What do I mean? Fingers crossed, but more in expect. It's right. I'll start again. It's not going to happen. Stop hosting. It's not going to happen.
We're a foreign language podcast.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just so annoyed about it. Sonny Baker needs to be playing cricket, and he's not.
Particularly after his injury last year.
Exactly.
I saw that this stuff that's going on, and Dan's been tweeting a lot about it. They're trying to get this investment in, and there was a rumor that Ryan Reynolds is interested or been. I mean, how true it is or whatever, but I think we should all start a campaign. We should all tweet Ryan Reynolds, and we should tell him before he gets involved in one of these dreadful plastic franchises. He's proved at Wrexham that he actually gets local communities. I mean, what they've done up here with Wrexham is astonishing. It really is. They've transformed the community, and I'm not for 1 minute saying our community at home needs transforming, but if he wanted to invest in a similar project, he really ought to come to Taunton rather than worry about buying a bag of crisps or whatever it is this year. Just saying.
Couldn't agree more. Think of the live stream views you'll get, Ben.
Well,
Ryan Reynolds on commentary with the other bloke, whose name I can't remember.
Rob McElhenney.
Rob McElhenney, that's the one. I did start watching that on Disney Plus, the old Welcome to Wrexham, but I'm not quite.
Really good, and it's the fact that they don't just focus on the first team; they're focusing on the kids. They're focusing on the women's team. You know, there was going off a tangent. Just to give you an example, Rob McElhenney went to watch the women play a home game and realised they were playing on a park pitch that was just, you know, you probably wouldn't have played it if the cameras hadn't have been there. Yeah. And now they're investing money in like the academy and all that stuff. They're doing it to build a legacy, not just for the publicity. So yeah, I think they'd love it, don't you know? Be right up their street.
As long as they don't call their new Disney Plus series about us behind the Wyvern, I'll be absolutely fine with it. We could even get the Deadpool Pavilion. That'd be good,
yes.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah. There's the title for tonight's pod.
What do you write it down?
I thought you would have done.
But let's have a quick chat about Sussex, and then I did want to have a chat about all the 100 investment bollocks that's going on at the moment, and all the stuff that's in the press about that at the moment. I mean, Sussex again. It finished off a run of really workmanlike, professional run chases. Again, it was never in doubt. Good to see runs for George Thomas again. He made 42 off 30, so it's going to, if he gets runs in the One Day Cup, that's going to make selection difficult for the quarterfinal, particularly if Will Smead hasn't had any cricket after recovering from his hamstring. 4 wickets for Ben Green again, picked them up at the right time towards the sort of the end, the 8th, 9th over, really put the brakes on that.
Yeah, that was the crucial spell, wasn't it? That middle chunk.
Yeah. Nice little highlight for me was George Thomas dropped the catch at just in front of the Trade Nation stand, went for 6. The guy held out to Craigo next ball, and straight away Craigo went over to console George Thomas and, you know, tell him to keep his head up, which was really nice to see.
Good point. Fun parallel. That was Tom Alsop who did that, who hit it to Thomas and then got caught next ball. And he did exactly the same thing in the 2019 One Day Cup final,
the slip catch.
Hildreth.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hildreth dropped it and then next ball took the catch.
Yeah.
Credit to my brother for pointing that out.
Sports psychiatrist needs to get in and look at that, don't they? There's obviously some well spotted, Dan.
It wasn't me, it was my brother, just to give him the full credit.
It's normally goes drop catch 4. That's normally the rule, not drop catch out. Yeah. Tom Alsop, obviously the exception to the rule then. Oh, right. Before we have a little chat about the 2 One Day Cup showcase warm-ups, what's been going on in 100 Bollocks Watch this week then? The off-the-pitch investment nonsense. First of all, that's now going out to tender to NFL franchises in September. Is that right? I mean, it's just...
It's going out to people who don't have any interest in cricket, which is a bit worrying. I said on Twitter, and I hate to sound like Theresa May, but no deal is better than a bad deal when it comes to this private investment in the 100. Bad private investment in the 100 could have so many negative consequences on our summer, like county cricket, England's cricket. It's just like the control. We cannot give control of the summer to private investment. Richard Gold has said before that that's not the aim. We're not selling English cricket. So he needs to live up to that. We need to make sure it's a fair compromise for everyone if there is this private investment, and it has to be beneficial to all the counties. It can't allow some counties to get richer while others get poorer. It has to be fair for everyone, and we can't be giving control of the summer to people who don't play English cricket. So I just hope they're bearing that in mind when going through this process.
Said it a couple of weeks ago. What is the goal of this private investment? Do we need the money? Do we need the? I would say we. Does English cricket? Does the 100 as a whole? This thing which is owned, lock stock by the ECB. Why does it need this investment? Is it running out of money? Does it want to expand?
I think there are two reasons. One of them is supposedly to bail the counties out. Counties that are in debt, they need the money. That's obviously
but if you're going to bail the counties out, it then goes to the boom or bust, doesn't it? If you suddenly get 20 million quid, everybody gets 20 million quid. In effect, nobody gets 20 million quid because everything would be hyperinflation, players' wages.
And what it doesn't do, it might get rid of the debt, but it's not getting rid of the causes that built up the debt. So in a couple more years, you take a county in the East Midlands, let's not name them, who might struggle to get crowds, etc., and they can't meet all the costs of running a county cricket club. A 20 million investment, if they've got to pay more than half of that off as clearing their debt, doesn't leave them with a lot of money to improve their revenue streams. So you'd want a position where that 20 million was being invested by those clubs so that they're year on year they weren't making losses. But part of the reason year on year they're making losses is because the ECB have ripped 5 weeks out of the revenue generating season and taken the best players away from all the clubs. It's just I think before Dan comes up with his second one, my take on it is a KPI for Gould and the likes of people like that at the ECB. And when they had their annual review, they were told you've got to raise X amount of money for the 100 sale.
And it's the problem is it's not necessarily a long-term fix, is it? It's just throwing more money at the problem in the short term. We just don't know. They've got to make sure it's a sustainable income, but you can't really guarantee that with private investment, can you? Because there's so many unknowns going forward. Like you don't know how long these private investors are going to be investing for. They're going to they might just want to fleece the game for all it's worth and then leave. So
if you go, that's generally how investment works. I mean, you put money in, and then 3 or 4 years later, you take a lot more out. So instead of it being this, if the 100 does stay, I would much rather it stayed in ownership of the 18 first-class counties and the ECB, and the counties drew their dividends from it and spent them however they want. Because if you're saying, let's say, for example, this £20 million payment, right, goes to, Indetshire, wherever they are, and Indetshire have to, spend it all paying off their debt instead of, I don't know, let's say building a hotel on site or, buying a bit of land near the ground, building a hotel or something, which they could do as an extra revenue stream, for example, or upgrading their on-site facilities, to make it for weddings or conferences or whatever, doing something like that to make them more financially sustainable. But if they get this money, it's just going to go on greedy agents wanting more for their players. If they know that every club has all of a sudden got an extra few million quid in the bank, well, time to cough up, or I'm going to somewhere else will pay it.
It's all part of this global race to the bottom when it comes to franchise cricket. Just more and more money being thrown at it to try to keep attracting the best players. It's just rubbish, isn't it? Like the whole global franchise market. It's just, I don't have a problem with other countries doing leagues. Like they are perfectly entitled to. Every country has a football league, so there's no reason every country can't have a cricket league. But the model at the moment is clearly just fucked, isn't it? Like it's just it's just, as I said, it's just a race to the bottom with just more and more private investment being thrown at these leagues, and they're all clashing with each other, and you've got players going in and out of them. The 100's already having that problem. Like Mohammed Amir played one match the other night and he's done. Daniel Hughes played one match yesterday and he's done. Like, and then another player's coming in. But that leads me on to my second reason that they're doing the private investment, and that's to guard against players going off to Major League Cricket or the Canada League or the Lanka Premier League or the Caribbean Premier League. They want to throw more money at it to attract the best overseas players.
Yeah, again, but it's that short termism, isn't it? Is if you're your business hasn't got the cash to sustain itself by being able to pay its staff effectively, well then investment's not a bottomless pit. That money's going to run out.
Yeah,
at some time.
They can obviously try and. Well, I'm not justifying it, to be clear, but obviously, clearly, they think that if they throw more money at it, there'll be greater returns and there'll be profits for the investors and for the counties. I guess that's the plan. I mean,
there was a piece I read yesterday. I think it was in the Times, but I haven't got it to hand. But somebody went along to the Oval on Tuesday night, and basically, I think the brief from the sports editor was, how is the 100 in its new season, sort of thing. Every positive comment that was made was about anything but the cricket. And I know it wasn't a very competitive game, but it was, the merchandising was amazing, and there was it was a good full crowd, and the weather was nice. Well, actually, if you put a bit more money into the blast and gave the counties a bit more and said, right, we can do this extra merchandising and this and that, and you played that in, I know this summer's not been great anyway, but if you play it in late July when the school holidays are on now, you're more likely on a Tuesday night to get families going than you are, leading June when kids have got exams leading up to, or whatever else going on. It's not rocket science. So it's comparing one with the other's got his hands tied behind his back. It's just, a nonsense. And we are cricket fans. Everyone listening to this podcast is a cricket fan. You go to watch cricket, you watch cricket on the stream, you listen to it on the radio because you like cricket. You don't go because, the merchandising's really good, or, the refreshments are better there than here. Because if you do, I'm going to be bold and say you're not going for the right reasons. And yeah, we can all moan about the quality of catering at different football grounds or different cricket grounds we go to. That's not the point, and that's where they're missing it. And as Dan says, when you've got a side where players come in, play a game, and then disappear off again, there's just no brand loyalty, is there? Try explaining to a 7-year-old why their favourite player last year, who they bought their shirt, is now playing for the Nottinghamshire Hula Hoops or whatever they are. It just doesn't work.
Well, a fella called Vikram Banerjee seems to be the face of the devil at the moment. In an interview today, he said something about, was it more tribal loyalties or something? Like,
yes,
have fans, like counties have had fans and members and supporters for, it's got to be at least 5 years, maybe even 6, maybe even try 150. So,
how about coming to Taunton on the night like last Thursday, and that'll tell you what tribal loyalty is all about, not some manufactured, overhyped marketing product that it's just. I'm sure toppers will listen to this and call us all reactionary old what's it, and need to change.
It just goes against all of our instincts as sport fans, I think. As you just said, how manufactured it is, how inauthentic it just feels. They're just teams created in a boardroom.
Well, I said it last week.
Focus groups. It's just like it's just so plastic, isn't it? Like, I mean, I know none of this is new motivations, but like, it just none of these impressions that I originally had of the 100 have changed. Like,
and the frustration we're all expressing is these were the things we were saying years ago, and these supposedly very intelligent people just haven't cottoned onto it. And I'm not saying they're flogging a dead horse, but they keep flogging. Sorry, it's probably not a very good thing to say this week, but they are. That was a
dressage joke. Didn't get that, dear listener.
Help me out here, but they are basically, definition of insanity is when you bang your head against the brick wall and keep doing it over and over again, isn't it? And to me, it's just, let's throw some more money at this and let's pay the counties off with a bit more money. Yeah, but what happens 2 or 3 years down the line here when, as Dan says, players then go, do you know what, I can earn more money playing for the Texas, whatever they're called, or the San Francisco thingamajigs. And then they've got this huge vacuum, and then they'll suddenly go, we've got all these counties. Maybe perhaps we'll put some money into that and see how that works. And by then it could be too late for some of the counties.
Completely agree. Anyway, moving on to something altogether more wholesome. We had Somerset had their 2 showcase warm-up games against the national counties, playing Cornwall down in Truro on Sunday, followed by Devon at Exmouth on Tuesday, which I attended, and it was a lovely day. The complete antithesis of the 100, as if it's hard to believe. My mind was instantly drawn back to my first ever visit to Exmouth to watch Devon against Essex in the NatWest Trophy. I was told this story a few times on here, but I sort of looked at it from a different viewpoint when I was thinking about it today. Essex in their ranks, along with the aforementioned Mr. Topley, had Gooch, Foster, Pringle, Salim Malik, Nasser Hussain, all internationals at the time. Great little 10, 11-year-old chaps watching that, thinking this is brilliant. Look at all these, these England players playing, 25, 30 minutes from where I live. This is great. Love cricket. And contrast that to the Somerset side, shorn of its superstars by the 100. Only Sean Dixon and Casey Aldridge were amongst the Vitality Blast Championship winning team that made the way down to play in that game on Tuesday, which was a bit of a disappointment to me, to be honest. Kind of looking at those 2 different stories, and it'd be great if in that beautiful, almost festival game atmosphere, the real creme de la creme were there, but they're not. They're dressing up as crisp packets in some meaningless shit competition. That being said, it was an excellent day. Exmouth hosted really well. The weather was lovely. Miggy P popped down and then he left. We know where now. He's off to South Africa. Not off to South Africa. He's off to the West Indies. Called up as cover for Gerald Coetzee for their 2-test series. So looking forward to seeing him in there, and hopefully he plays. Lewis Goldsworthy came back as well. Very impressed with how he went in that game. Bowled very well, batted very nicely until Sean Dixon ran him out. George Thomas looked to put on an extra yard of pace or 2 over the winter. The highlight of me was Archie Vaughan. He looks bloody good.
Surprised he hasn't been snapped up by 100 franchise after that performance.
Well, I know lots. I don't like talking about his dad, not because I don't like his dad or anything, but I always feel like it just puts a load of pressure on these kids that they don't need. So I'm going to draw a line under it now, and I'm enforcing a rule as your chair. I'm going to ban everybody in future from mentioning the fact that Archie Vaughan is Michael Vaughan's son and Michael Vaughan is Archie Vaughan's dad. Archie is his own man, and he will develop and hopefully develop into a fantastic player for Somerset over the years to come. Just sort of looking at it, he's tall lad, quite skinny, he's very rangy, but he doesn't look like he's stretching when he gets forward, and he looks like he's still got a bit of manoeuvrability in his wrists when he is sort of going forward and driving for his placement. Played a couple of shots that were just absolutely inch perfect, a bit similar to how Tom Abel does, where he just found the gap perfectly. And he just looks like he's got a little bit of extra time as well, which is, I know he's only facing sort of national counties bowling, which is never going to be the quickest in the world, but even so, he just looked like he had a little bit of extra time and a little bit of extra class. So really looking forward to seeing him play in the always look on the bright side of life for all London Metrobat One Day Cup, which starts tomorrow.
Can I just say, I was working in Liverpool on Tuesday morning. I had my phone on the desk, so I had the score alerts coming up. Before I'd gone into a meeting, I'd seen your tweet that your kit was in the boot, etc. And then the first alert that I saw was run out brackets Shepherd come up.
Yeah.
And I saw that and I was like, okay, what's going on there? And I was an hour before I could go and check. I was convinced that I was going to go back onto Twitter and see a picture of you in your Devon kit having done the unmentionable or
No,
something.
the more likely one was when Ben put up for a wicket alert, Shepherd is stumped going for a massive swipe, which is more like me. But yeah,
That was much
Matt
later
Shepherd,
in the
left
day,
arm
though,
spinner
in
for Devon,
fairness.
no relation.
Yep.
But yeah, I think Archie looks very good. He bowls a bit of off spin as well, and he does bowl. His action is very similar to a guy who bowled an occasional bit of off spin for England between 1999 and 2007.
Did he captain us in an Ashes winning series once?
Might
That
have done, I
chap?
think. Vaguely, I think he had a pretty good series in Australia. All right, stop it. We're not even allowed to mention it via innuendo. Yes, I mean, we are looking forward. I mean, I think the side pretty much picks itself, doesn't it? You can't leave Jack out.
Yeah. The one thing for me is it's kind of, for me, a choice between Archie Vaughan and Ned Leonard for the final spot, which sounds weird because they're obviously completely different players. But I think I would probably go with Leonard initially. I would go with Aldridge, Leonard, Ogborn, and Davey as the 4 seam bowlers, and obviously Leachy is the spinner. And then the top 6 then basically does pick itself, doesn't it? Thomas, Umeed, Goldsworthy, Rue, Dixon, Josh Thomas. That for me is the first choice team. But if we wanted to have a bit more batting, Vaughan could come in probably for Leonard, but there'll be no doubt rotation of the seamers anyway. Vaughan could come in for Leonard, and then it would be 10 overs between Josh Thomas, George Thomas, and Goldsworthy, which wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but it would mean only having 3.
Well, Andy Umeed
seam
bowled
bowling
pretty well as well. So I mean,
Yeah, that's
if
true.
each plays,
But
Umeed and
I think it's about
Goldsworthy are gonna you're playing almost 3 spinners by default, aren't you?
Yeah,
And then add
it's
in
just about the
whatever
seam options
combination of
there, I think.
seams you want.
We might be caught short if we only go with 3 proper seam options plus George Thomas. That's the only thing.
Well, he looked pretty good as well. He looked pretty lively.
Yeah.
So I would, I don't think he's quite the 4th seamer yet, but he's certainly someone who can help fill up that last batch of 10 overs if you need him to.
What was your impressions of Baby Rouge?
Baby Roo, I didn't see him because he was playing in a pathway game.
I thought he played.
He wasn't there. No.
He played Cornwall.
You played the Cornwall game, would it? So I've seen a little bit of it
Sorry,
streams
I've got
well.
the games mixed up.
He just looks good. I mean, he looks as good as you can. That's as much kind of an assessment as you can make without really seeing him in the flesh. But yeah, just looks good. Technically correct. I mean, I'm sure he'll come in at some stage in the squad because these 50 over squads these days, they always seem to get rotated around. I'm sure he'll be in. What was the side? It was Umeed and Thomas opened. Umeed ran himself out. Goldsworthy
was 3.
3. Dixon ran him out, and then 4 was. Just look it up on my phone. Josh Thomas.
Yeah, I've got the scorecard here.
Oh yeah. All right, I'll go for it. Then it was
Finn Hill.
Finn Hill, Archie Vaughan, Rue, Aldridge, Leonard, and young Joe Hayward. Yeah. Miggy P came down, got a massage, and left. They apparently bowled on the outfield while I was out getting me fish and chips.
I'm delighted from being picked in the test squad, but he will be a miss for us, I think. He would have been very handy to have coming in at 7 or 8 and giving it a whack and bowling 10 solid overs. So I think it's a bit of a blow to lose him, I think.
He just looks like a really good, solid 50 overall rounder, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, well, never mind. So, yeah, where do you think we're going to finish? Think we're good enough to win it?
I think we look a bit better than last year because last year we, of course, had all the players lost to the 100. Plus, we had basically another entire bowling attack was missing as well. Aldridge, Baker, Ogborn, Davey until the last game, and Leach were all injured, as well as our 100 absentees. This year, all of those are available except for Baker. So there is a big improvement there. I think the bowling will be better this year. The bowling was the bigger problem last year, I think. So if the bowling is better, and if Umeed has a good tournament again, obviously he was incredible last year. If George Thomas continues his good form, if Rue bats to the level we know he can, because Rue wasn't bad last year, but he kept making starts and getting out, apart from when he did score 1 century. Goldsworthy was similar, made a few starts and got out, and did miss a bit of the tournament with injury. But if we're injury free and the bowling is better than last year as it should be, and if the batters I just said do as well as they could, I think we've got a chance of competing for the knockouts. So, but I think it will be difficult because there are a lot of, again, there are teams in the group which haven't really been hit by the 100, although it's not as extreme as last year, because last year there were a lot of teams in our group which had hardly been hit by the 100. Whereas this year it's not quite as extreme as that. Like last year one group had most of the teams that hadn't been hit, and the other group had all the teams that had been hit by the 100. And we were in the group which had most of the teams that hadn't been hit. This year, the players lost to the 100. It is less in our group again, but it's not quite as extreme of a difference. So there are a few factors, I think, which will help us this year compared to last year. But I think we shouldn't be too harsh on them if it is another difficult campaign. But I think there's a chance of sort of competing for the knockouts. It's such a one more thing. It's such a short campaign as well. 8 games is not very many, and if you lose 1 or 2, you're almost out. So it is tough.
My 2 things. I looked at the group and I thought Worcestershire, Derbyshire, Northants are all those sides that haven't lost that many players from my reckoning. And Durham looks strong as well. So those are the 4 teams you've got to look to beat a couple of those. On the plus side, we've got Jack Leach, and Alfie Ogborn has developed a lot this year, and that to me makes the bowling stronger.
Yeah,
and
really.
I think Jack Leach's T20 performances towards the end of that group will give him confidence. And again, I know it was only a Cornwall bowling attack, no disrespect, but it was a Cornwall bowling attack, but he made runs as well. And I think he'll genuinely enjoy his cricket. I think it'll be really good for the squad.
I wonder if they're just going to do something completely mad with Jack Leach.
Like open with him.
Well, yeah, just like stick him in randomly. Like you could totally throw the opposition off if every game you just stuck 8 ping pong balls in a hat. Or no, let's say 6. You stuck 6 ping pong balls in, pick one out. That's where Jack's batting today, and it's just going to throw the opposition completely off. They can't plan anything, and we know.
Well, what are our plans? Our plans have all gone to hell now because we didn't budget for that. Yeah,
why not?
Well, he's a left-hander as well, which might be another reason to change things up a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Just do it. What else on the One Day Cup? Yeah, I mean, you touched on Alfie Ogborn, Steve. I think I've been itching to see him out on the field at Taunton this season. He is only one of 2 contracted players not to play in the first 11 this season. Can you name the other one?
Josh Thomas.
Yes, Josh Thomas. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him bowl. I'm really gutted he hasn't had an opportunity in Championship or T20 cricket so far this year. Josh Davey will do what Josh Davey does. I think I expect him to be reliable, contribute a few runs down the order. But again, I think it needs to be a big tournament for Casey Aldridge as well, who has just, I don't want to say he's lost his way a little bit. I think his way has been lost for him slightly with the way that he's been treated and not selected and not backed throughout the summer. So like to see him take bags of wickets and score some useful runs as well. And of course Lewis Goldsworthy may still be off. We don't know, but if he does score a few runs,
he's got a huge incentive, hasn't he? Because if he makes runs and scores wickets, and still the powers that be don't want him at Taunton, I should imagine Leicestershire will be crawling down the motorway to get him back up there. And his tweet or Instagram post or his social media post was very much leaving the doors wide open to go back there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And Leicestershire might get promoted as well. It's quite competitive, the Division 2 promotion race, but if Leicestershire get promoted, it's an even more attractive option for him.
But at least we'll be able to that square on the big Gibbo bingo that we haven't been able to fill in all season. The Camborne reference will come out. What do you reckon? 6 balls after he gets into bat on tomorrow?
Yeah, Camborne's finest. Lewis Goldsworthy. I can't think of anything else that I need to talk about the One Day Cup. I think we've pretty much covered pretty much all the players that we're talking about. Got feeling Andy Umeed will score buckets of runs again this year. I think his confidence will be sky. Because he had I don't know if you remember, but I don't think he scored any runs in the 2 warm-up games last year, and then he went out and scored buckets. So let's hope that Ooms does the same this year. And again, as you say, Dan, if everybody performs, we all collectively have a decent tournament.
Yeah.
Who knows? We could go all the way.
If they get a good start and it builds a bit of confidence in a young group as well, that'll make a huge difference. The first couple of games are really important. Kent and Hampshire. If we win one, lose one, but are competitive in the loss, even that will help. I think you have a couple of losses and then it gets tough for any side, but especially a young side.
Game 3 is at Chester Street as well, which is bloody difficult. So it'd be nice to get at least one win on the board before that, if not.
Well, yeah, let's just get our bad performance out the way at Chester Street, like we did.
We got it out the way at Cardiff. Don't worry, it's all going to be fine.
And just one more thing, I think it's worth mentioning about the One Day Cup side as it is at the moment. There were a couple of times last year where we had a really, really young and inexperienced bowling lineup, and they were getting clothed all round by James Bracey and Privdy Shaw and Ali all the year before. This year it looks a little bit stronger. So, if Joe Hayward does get a go, then he's not going to be as exposed, if you like. He's going to be able to be rotated around and bowl the quote unquote easy overs rather than sort of Sean Dixon looking around going, Christ, who have I got? I got Alfie Ogborn, I got Joe Hayward, I got Danny Lamb, I got pretty much like who can bowl these overs for me? So that should be better this year. General confidence around the group. I think most of that group would have been part of the team that won the T20 a couple of weeks ago. So there's another reason for it to be looking good. So I'm happy. You happy?
Yeah, I think the big thing is injuries. We just got, if we stay injury free, we've got a chance. We have a chance of going through, definitely. I think last year we had loads of injuries and still managed to win 3 games, which isn't terrible. If we are injury free and get everyone performance at their best, there's no reason we can't win 5 or 6 games. So let's see.
And we haven't even talked about Riley Meredith yet.
Yeah.
Who is at Trent?
I personally am skeptical who'll actually play for us. I just got a feeling there'll be an injury to one of the other overseas players at Trent Rockets and he'll end up replacing them for the rest of the tournament or something. So I'll believe it when I see it, when he's at, if he actually.
My worry is that Miggy P's given him all the gap year tickets that he can't use now because he's going to be in the West Indies. So he's got a weekend in Dublin and a long weekend in Amsterdam coming up in the next month or something.
Well, I wouldn't surprise me what Miguel's going to be getting up to when he gets back. That series finishes like around about the same time as the One Day Cup, doesn't it? So in theory, should be able to come back and finish the season off. If I don't know what's going on, I think I read somewhere that South Africa is going to play their domestic T20, not the SA20, the franchise one, the domestic one in September. So whether it'll be needed back for that, I expect he will, and not be able to play in the championship. But who knows? Who knows? Miggy P does what he likes. Bless him. That's why we love him now. Bit of sad news this week. Somerset legend Ken Palmer passed away. I mean, myself and Dan are probably a little bit too young to have seen Ken in his pomp. Steve, I imagine you would have seen just.
I didn't. No, I missed him by 1 season. The first season I started was his first season retired. My memories of him basically revolve around Gary, because at the time I was playing youth cricket in Taunton, Gary was maybe a year younger than me. And my main memories were sort of playing in games and my dad sort of saying to me, Ken Palmer's here today, Ken Palmer's watching, and it being absolutely terrifying because by then he was making his way as a test umpire. But yeah, it's really hard for me, and I think a lot of Somerset supporters need to realise how good that team in the 60s was without winning anything. You know, Bill Alley, the two Palmers, Roy Virgin emerging into that side as well, Langford, you know, just
Merv
there could have
Kitchen,
there was a
Colin Atkinson.
Yeah. You just had some. Oh, Fred Rumsey, of course, who was Palmer's opening bowling partner.
Peter White.
He's probably gone by then. I think their careers would have overlapped.
I got a scorecard 1965 framed on the on my wall behind me.
And don't forget, Palmer was a big part of us getting to the Gillette Cup final for the first time in '67. So, but he was such a prominent figure around Taunton for me as a kid growing up, you know, and it was one of those things. Gary was an incredibly talented cricketer who sadly didn't fulfill his potential, and a really nice guy as well. But, you know, we were talking earlier about Archie and pressure. It's only in later years I sort of probably realised how much pressure Gary must have been under at that time. You know, and obviously he went on and become very successful in his own niche in cricket, but not on the playing field. But yeah, the other thing I remember about Ken Palmer, if you ever look at videos of the tests at that time, him and Bill Alley were the fastest index fingers in the West. They really were, the two of them. Oof. There was, it would have been lovely to have the review system put back in and looked at some of their decisions, because there was a lot of instinct, let's say, that went into the decisions.
Well, Ken will be sorely missed, and certainly we'll pass on our condolences to those who knew him a lot better than we all did. So to Ken's friends and family, our deepest condolences on his passing. We have got a couple of listeners' questions to run through. We haven't even got here to show Bashir's 5 wickets at Trent Bridge. The youngest English bowler to ever take 5 wickets at home, I believe. Bob Depledge, sorry if I've mangled your surname, Bob, asks the question which is on everyone's lips: can Somerset accommodate both Leach and Bashir? If not, will it have to be Bashir who moves on?
I think it'll be very difficult to accommodate them both, to be honest. It's just so rare that we need or decide to play 2 spinners these days, isn't it? Like, we tried it with Bess and Leach, but then obviously Cider bad, and we got the points deduction and all that. It just felt inevitable at the end that Bess would go. And I just think, I don't know, Leachy's got 2 more years in his contract. I mean, he's obviously into his 30s now, but he'll probably be playing cricket for quite a while yet. And if Leachy's still with us for the next 5, 6, 7 years, then Bashir is going to get frustrated, because Leach will probably continue as our first choice spinner and Bashir won't be playing. I mean, Bashir, there may be a point eventually, if Bashir works at it, that he would overtake Leach in the pecking order. But he may, and I wouldn't blame him for this, he may not have the patience for that, because he will be thinking, well, actually, I need to be bowling as much as I can in county cricket to keep up my England prospects, you know. So yeah, I love to see a way to make it work for both of them, but it's difficult for me.
Well, we turned Jack Leach into an opening batsman who bowls a bit of spin. That's the solution. If Leachy gets 400s in the One Day Cup over the next couple of weeks, problem solved.
Absolutely. I mean, going on to it, I think, speaking from a purely Somerset perspective, is we'll have the England quality, you'll have the international quality spinner who can play the most for us, please. And whether that's Jack Leach or Bashir, it looks like it's going to be Jack Leach who's going to be available for us all the time, if, you know, as Bashir's off with England. So from a purely Somerset point of view, we'll keep Leach and let Bash move on. Horrible as it is, because we'd love to be able to play the two together, but I mean, we can't even seem to make the Cider of bad wickets now, let alone worry about getting dot points for them. We tried to make a Bunsen for the, was it Warwickshire game? That weird, horrible.
That didn't end well, did it?
Yeah, that horrible looking thing that had a green middle and the 2 ends were completely bare. So yeah, not you don't want to let a quality cricketer go, but when it's
Well, it also just comes down to contracts. Bashir's contract's out in 2025. Leach's is in 2026. So we'll probably say to Bash, here's a new contract. Here's a contract offer. And he'll probably say, sorry, I've got offers from elsewhere where I'll play more cricket. And it'll be fair enough if he decides to move on. So.
And then the second.
But with our recent track record, we'll have another spin bowler whose name begins with B by then anyway. So
it wouldn't shock me if Best returns for sure.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I mean, he's got a lot of ties at the club. He looked like he really enjoyed himself when he came back for the Hampshire game last year. He looked like he was almost. I don't look like he was on like a week's holiday just playing with his mates. It was, he loved it. It's funny seeing it like a lone player coming out in his proper Somerset cap. It's quite strange, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised as well. And Alan Brown has given me a little bit of a bollocking saying, as I sent to you the other day, Shep, sorry, Alan, how will our Blast team look for the quarterfinal and finals day this winter? Well, different when they're batting to when they're bowling, Alan, but I assume that's not what you meant. You mentioned it before. If Will Smeed hasn't had a knock after recovering from his hamstring injury, does George Thomas get an automatic pick? More of a difficult decision if he has a good one-day cup.
Well, the question is, could TKC be left out? Because arguably he's probably had the worst tournament of our regular top three, and obviously George Thomas has done really well in the few games he's played.
So, Daniel putting the cat amongst the pigeons. Let's have a look at TKC's stats. Well, they're not too bad.
He's tough at in this Dan Kingdom, isn't he? He really is. I tell you.
He's averaged 27, striking
worst
at
of the top
140 with the best of 50.
I know you did.
He's only had the 150. Yeah. And I suppose if you're being ultra critical, you could say T20 cricket isn't necessarily about consistently scoring 25. It's about scoring that 80 off 40 balls once every 5 or 6 games and being an impact player, I guess.
I'm just putting it out there. I'm not saying I would drop TKC, but if you look, TKC and Smeed average almost identical, but Smeed's strike rate is 187, TKC's is 140. And Bance has not had as good of a strike rate as Bance has a better strike rate than TKC and a better average. So
but he's got 3 not outs as well, which is unusual for a T20 opener.
And this is fence sitting to the point of extreme, but we've been talking about, one of the things that's got to happen for us to have a good one-day cup is stay free of injuries. We don't know, if Will Smeed's going to be back and fit by then. I suppose you have to couch the question in everyone's fit and available. What would the side be? But, if Will Smeed hasn't played much cricket, to me, you go with the side that finished the competition, the batting lineup that finished the competition. He's got to come back, prove he's fit, and have scored runs. You can't throw him into a quarter-final as his first game back. That would be, to me, really brave.
That's kind of what Will Smeed's game is, though, isn't it? Just going out, turn up, have bat, will smash from the hip from ball one.
Yeah, I mean, Smeed has the highest ceiling of any of our batters, I think. So it would be difficult to leave him out if he's fit, I think. He's the man who is most likely to score 100 or 50 balls, I think, in our 11.
You can't leave Banton out in any circumstance.
No.
I mean, you know what will happen. You absolutely know what will happen. George Thomas will be left out. That's that's what will happen, because that's just reference back through the track record of selection over the last few years. That's the template, and that will be stuck to.
And it certainly looks like, from not being in that dressing room, it certainly looks like the modus operandi of that team is Will Smeed is given license to go out and try and get that, that
100 off 50 balls,
world record 100 off 20 balls or 100 off 25 balls. Do you know what I mean? That real once in a lifetime innings. He's given license to try and get that every time. Judging, the way that you sort of look at him bats, and if it does come off, you've won the game.
Yeah, and Northampton is a small ground, I believe, as well. From memory,
big hit over the pavilion though. Apparently, only one person has ever done it.
It happened twice in the quarterfinal in one of these.
Yeah. And of course, we've just been talking about the batting, but the bowling potentially throws up even more conundrums. I mean, will Meredith be fit? Will Pretorius be considered? Will Meredith be here? Is probably more of an appropriate question. If Roloff van der Merwe, Jack Leach, and Lewis Goldsworthy are all fit, I mean, Goldsworthy definitely had the best group stage, albeit not for us. I mean, if he bowls well in the One Day Cup, I think he probably gets the nod over Leach for me. I think
Leach did bowl well in the Blast group stage, but obviously Goldsworthy had batting and fielding. So
yeah, I mean, for what I saw Jack, he seems a little bit. I don't know. Goldsworthy seems to be able to change it up a lot more than Jack was able to.
Yeah.
Well, Jack
Goldsworthy is more of a natural one-day bowler, isn't he? Leach is more of a red bowler. Naturally.
Yeah. But funny to say about a guy who's had so much success, Jack Leach is still very much learning how to bowl in first team one-day cricket.
Yeah, I've got the stats in front of me. I'd probably say that Goldsworthy has played a lot more white ball cricket than Leach.
Yes.
In a substantially shorter career.
For the county.
Leach is not even really played List A cricket. He had 2015, he played basically all of our One Day Cup campaign. Since then, he's literally played the odd game. Like he played one game in 2021. I think he may have played a few games for England Lions. But in his entire career, Leach has played 17 List A games and 70 20 matches. It's mad considering he's 33 years old.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those things that of the last campaign at the end that made me so happy with seeing or hearing Leach take a wicket. It just warms the cockles of my heart when I hear it, because it's like, yet again, Jack Leach he just never lets you down. He's so wholehearted, such a nice guy. I can't, I would hope in this competition that he achieves loads, and that people are talking about him for all the right reasons again, because he deserves it. He's had so much bad luck, and I don't think by any means his Test career is over, because he's that resilient sort of player, and Bash is young. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but if he has a loss of form, Jack Leach is such a good guy that you can just ring him out and say, we need you to play in the second Test against Sri Lanka, and he'll be back in the side,
Yeah, without a doubt. Oh, looks like it's going to be a thriller at Old Trafford. Manchester Originals, 86 all out. Oh, no, sorry, 86 for 8.
Wow.
Oh. That was worth your money and your shirt and your cap and your whatevers.
Toilet brush and your home.
And it's not even a particularly nice evening up here, so the weather's probably not that great. 15 miles east of me, so.
Oh, well. Yeah, pretty. I mean, it's just. I mean, 2 of the first 3 games have just been absolute shit. The what was it? Warwick, Birmingham against Yeovil.
Oval, yeah.
Well, the first game that was a complete mismatch, wasn't it? And then Manchester was 7 for 37 at one stage. I didn't see what happened yesterday.
Wow. Yesterday wasn't great either, I don't think. I think the women's games have been more interesting. Not that I haven't seen them, but just from what I've read. And
just proves you can't manufacture a product. If we started this podcast talking about how rubbish Somerset had been and how poor that game was, etc. And yet we spent an hour talking about it because we love them. They're our life and everything, and we'll keep coming back and coming back and coming back.
And you know what? Because we've seen what that group of players can do, how they've evolved over, the last 8, 9, 10 years, and not, they're not a load of guys who've just been bought at a slave auction and all chucked in together.
Yeah.
So we don't know if that's good or bad.
All those backstories, that we've got,
Exactly. Well, Kohler Cameron opening, they got 6 off one set, whatever you want to bloody call it. Any other business, chaps, before we knock this on the head?
Yep.
No, just everyone tweet Ryan Reynolds, please.
Oh, everyone tweet. Oh, what's his Twitter? Is it something like Van City Reynolds or something like that?
I don't know.
I need to let our listeners know. Sorry, I'm looking it up now. Yes, Ryan
Oh.
Reynolds is official. I mean, he's a bit busy promoting Deadpool versus Wolverine now. If it helps sweeten the deal, Ryan, I'm recommending all our listeners go and watch Deadpool versus Wolverine on Saturday when some aren't playing.
Get the
Dan's gonna
name right.
see that. He says I'm going to see it in a
It's
minute.
Deadpool and Wolverine is the name.
Oh, sorry,
just to be
Deadpool
clear.
and Wolverine.
Yep.
Sorry.
We need to get the name of his film right.
Oh,
if
Ryan
we're gonna
Reynolds
use
is no
that
way he's going to support Somerset. No, I forgot the name of his bloody film. I'm sorry, Deadpool and Wolverine, the third film in the Deadpool series. Yes, at Van City Reynolds is his Twitter handle. Don't know what Rob McElhaney's is. I'm sure you can find it out on Twitter. Anyway, best of luck to Sean Dixon, who's have we officially talked about Dixon being captain? Probably not, but he is. Same as last year. Hope you have a better campaign than you did last year, Sean. You certainly deserve it after the hard times of 2023 in the One Day Cup. I'll be at Kent tomorrow, and I'm going to Hampshire on Sunday. Dan, are you doing both of those?
See you there. Yep. I'll be at every One Day Cup game, all being well, home and away.
Going to Durham, you mad bastard.
Yep. 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock start.
He loves a long train journey.
Wednesday.
He loves a long train journey.
Are you going, Steve? It's slightly less of a. The thing is, you think Durham, this is what happens when you live in Devon. You think, everywhere kind of north of Birmingham.
3.5 hours from here.
Yeah, 3.5 hours from you Chester way, aren't you? Up to Durham. So, oh Christ. Well, enjoy, Dan. I hope I genuinely hope it's a nice day, and I don't hope it's one of those where you just open your weather app, but when you wake up and you think, 50% chance of rain. What do I do?
Yeah.
No,
well,
that would be lovely.
That might be a point gained, to be fair, if it is that. So
That's true. Okie dokes. Right. Thanks for listening. Best of luck to Sean Dixon and the boys for these opening 3 fixtures, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Cheers, everybody.
Done.
Cheers, guys.
All right. Cheers. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
See you later.
All right.